Sasuke, Naruto, and Gaara would have arrived at Shikotsu Forest, the massive legendary location where one of the legendary Sannin, Tsunade, was said to reside. Much like Mount Myoboku or Ryuchi Cave, Jiraiya and Orochimaru's respective sage locations, Shikotsu Forest is a massive area, which is ruled by the slugs. Or it should be, Naruto would be thinking. Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara would slowly be creeping through the forest, trying to avoid touching any of this weird black chakra. Sasuke, of course, using his Sharingan in order to move through it without touching any of it. Naruto himself realizing how dangerous this stuff seems to be. Sasuke could see the anti-chakra using his Sharingan as a sort of negative space, almost appearing like it didn't belong in his vision. After walking deeper and deeper into the forest, the landscape had already changed. Sasuke, Gaara, and Naruto were already used to the arid climates of the Land of Wind, that being the sandy dunes of the Sand Village where they had just picked up Gaara a couple days ago. Now, just from walking for these 30 minutes, they'd be deep within a dark green lush forest, seemingly having sprung out of nowhere in the middle of this desert. It was kind of insane. Naruto be holding Tsuki, his familiar, on his shoulder, so as for Tsuki not to touch any of this weird dark chakra. This energy seemed to be strewn about just everywhere throughout the forest, just continuously growing and growing, like a mass disease, decaying its way deeper and deeper within the forest. Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara make some more good ground, as they've now finally made it out from the white dead patch that was surrounded by this anti-chakra, and we're now deep enough within the green to where they could at least rest for a while, deciding to take a minor stop here. Naruto getting a fire starter with Tsuki, who would curl around it, and Sasuke and Gaara discussing what they had seen earlier. That stuff was crazy, Sasuke would say. It's even still growing even now, but it seems to be going very slowly. Naruto would nod, saying that they all need to keep on their toes. Naruto closing his eyes, he says, I think there's someone who has been doing this, someone who's been destroying this forest. If you run into them, maybe we can take them out and Tsunade would take it as a favor, and then we'll finally be able to figure out what I'm looking for, my mission on how I can defeat Hidan. Sasuke looking into the flames would think of Itachi, his own mission. Sasuke would nod, saying that if they can find what this weird power is, maybe they could even take it for themselves. Naruto would toss another small stick into the flames, a small crackle bursting as embers would flow out into the night sky. Honestly, I don't know if that's a good idea. That stuff feels nasty. I don't know, I just get the feeling that if you had that power, it'd be using you more than you're using it. I mean, Naruto would say, gesturing towards the side of the forest they had just come from. Look at what it did. Just imagine what that would do to someone's body. Hell, maybe even their mind. Almost immediately as Naruto's words leave his mouth, suddenly Tsuki's ears would pick up as she starts growling. Naruto would turn, asking, Tsuki, what is it? Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara would stand, slowly getting to their feet, quickly trying to get a grip on the situation and understand what it is Tsuki is growling at. Above, a kunai be thrown at fast speed towards Naruto's head, the kunai being covered in this anti-chakra. Sasuke would quickly use a chakra thread, throwing it out as it attaches to a tree as he hits the handle of it with his thread, pulling on his own thread and changing the trajectory of the kunai that was going to hit Naruto. The kunai lands to the left of Naruto, the ground that was stabbed by the blade turning black before slowly turning to dust, the anti-chakra within the blade dissipating as the nature energy around consumes it. Gaara would be using his sand eyes to look around and try and find who had sent this kunai, but Naruto would already be analyzing the knife, realizing that the person was gone, since Tsuki had stopped reacting. Naruto, bending down, seeing the knife was now pretty much out of energy, would see there was a note of paper, a scrap, simply attached to the blade. What does it say, Naruto? Sasuke would ask. Naruto would tell him to hold back, as he would use his fingers and pull the piece of paper off, seeing if there would be any anti-chakra that would hit him. Of course, nothing happens, with Naruto sighing. Naruto would open the paper and look inside, his eyes widening as he's about to read it to Sasuke and Gaara. It says here first that was a warning shot, and then if we wish to live any longer, we need to leave the forest now. Nothing new there, Sasuke would say. Alright, come on, get to the good part. Naruto would nod, saying, it also says they've already captured Tsunade, the legendary Sannin we even came here looking for. Wait, really? Sasuke would say, Sasuke coming over and looking at the paper. I mean, couldn't they be bluffing Naruto? That's not out of the question, right? It's not exactly an unsound strategy, just easy to confirm false. Naruto closed his eyes, remembering what Lady Kushina had said to him. She had said that Tsunade was one of the strongest remaining shinobi of the Leaf Village. Naruto would remember in his mind what Hidan and Kakuzu had done at his home village back at Arabasta. And Kushina is not an idiot. If she really thinks Tsunade can help him kill an immortal, then there's no way that this guy had taken Tsunade out. Naruto would gulp, saying he bets that Tsunade is probably alive, saying that they're gonna keep going until they find her. Naruto would crumple up the paper, throwing it aside. The three boys and Tsuki decided to keep moving forward into the forest. Moving away from Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara's perspective, we watch as the person who had thrown that kunai would be moving back to their home base, jumping through the trees and moving at fast speeds. They'd pull their hood back down as we see that they have almost feminine-like features. Long, dark brown, black hair, and an intense speed. "Oh, Haku, you're back," Zabuza would say, as we see the Demon of the Mist, Zabuza, and his apprentice, Haku, have been hired by this strange person to help him clear out Shikotsu Forest for its remodeling, as they say. Well, aside from the fact that they're really creepy, the pay here is amazing, Zabuza would be thinking. It's even better than that offer I got from that Gato guy. Zabuza and Haku would have been hired mercenaries by their benefactor, the leader behind this whole operation and the wielder of anti-chakra. His name being, "Oh, Knull, you're back," Zabuza would say. Knull would be approaching carrying a black rope, and that rope being a tied-up Shizune. "What, you couldn't bag the other one?" Zabuza would ask. "You know," Knull would say, "I did hire the both of you in order to help keep me safe, right? So it's not too unreasonable of me to expect that at least one of you would get your job, right?" Now, Haku, did you deliver the message I sent to the intruders? Haku would nod, saying he did, with Zabuza being a little annoyed that he's being ignored. "Zabuza, I'll be sending you after the Sannin. She was a little bit of trouble for me after all, considering that her specialty is a perfect counter for me." In the moonlight, we would see a clear image of Knull for the first time. He'd be a tall man with white, scraggly hair, his eyes having a dark gray, but almost a hollowness to them, no light truly reaching their center. Knull's figure would be incredibly horrifying to witness. Zabuza and Haku being used to such sights though, they wouldn't really care. Seeing his sunken-in ribs and hollow chest, it appears as though he hadn't eaten anything in several days or weeks. As we soon come to find out, this of course being a very arduous task for him, as Knull would reach down into a large bowl in the center of this room and pick up an apple, simply touching it, causing it to turn into dark gray matter, rotting on the spot as it falls to the ground. Knull would sigh. "I just need to get this over with so I can get rid of this curse already." It's here we see a small peek into Knull's memories. Knull was raised in the Grass Village from a young child. His family had fallen from grace, his former Kage ancestor of the Grass Village being long in memory now. His family had simply fallen to that of being the average shinobi clan. However, they were going slowly bankrupt, their funds going lower and lower every night, Knull's father being a drunk. You see, that was until a strange man had come to their door. While Knull was simply a young child, maybe 2 or 3 years old, this man, he still had a clear imprint of him in his mind. He was a tall figure, his hair gleaming with a golden-like glint, with shades of gray and black mixed in with it. His eyes had a lion-like gleam to them, as if though he was just simply hunting his next prey. He had almost permanently held a soft smile on his face, as if though he was watching a gentle horizon. Knull's father would come to the door drunk, as usual, his mother cowering in the corner. What do you want?" he'd say. The man would introduce himself, explaining that his name. He'd pause between that explanation of who he was and what his actual name was, as he slowly touches his scarf wrapped around his neck, pulling on it as his smile returned to normal, his golden eye gleaming, as he then says that his name doesn't matter. Saying that he has an offer here, the man would pull out a huge briefcase, dropping it to the ground as it opens almost automatically, filled to the brim with coin. Cash. His father looked at it hungrily, asking what he wants. The man would have a huge grin on his face. He pointed at me, then saying, "I just want to talk to him a little bit. You see, I'm rather fascinated by the psychology of humanity, and I was hoping I could analyze the young child's mind, just for a few minutes. I find myself a rather huge player of chess, you see. So naturally, it's always fun for me to see how the new pieces play on the game board. The man with this red scarf would walk over to me, his golden eyes locking onto mine. And the last thing I remember him saying is, "It's a pleasure to meet you. What's your name? Knull?" What a perfectly apt name. It's almost like destiny has brought us together, Knull. "You see, I have a little gift for you, Knull," he'd say. The man would cover his left eye with his hand. Opening it, I only saw a minute of a red gleam, and then he was gone. After that point, suddenly, I had the power. This cursed power of anti-chakra. I've been hunting that man down ever since, to get him to remove this damned curse from me. His name still echoes in my ears, from what he had introduced himself to my father as. Knull would explain to Zabuza. He said his name was Zankyo Kirai. But as far as I've looked, after all the mercenaries I've hired with that huge amount of money, he'd smirk. No one's ever been able to find him. So instead I figure I'd try and get Tsunade to cure me of this ailment. Naturally, she's been a little difficult to find. Am I right, Lady Shizune? Knull would say, kicking at Shizune. Just a single touch causing her to scream in pain, since Knull has almost no control over his anti-chakra. Not whatsoever. Anyway, Knull would stretch, his bones looking shaky and rattly. I gotta get rid of this stuff quick. Zabuza, will you feed me again? He'd open his mouth as Zabuza would begrudgingly stab an apple with his sword, pointing it towards Knull. Knull would take a bite off the sword, simply consuming it before it could rot away, saying, that's the good stuff. Zabuza would be annoyed, saying he's never been hired by anyone to use his blade as a toothpick before. Knull smiling, saying, is it really that strange? Zabuza and Haku would then be ordered to go and take out the intruders. Zabuza deciding that he's going to go and find these 3 intruders that Knull speaks about. The sunrise is almost there. We see Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara running through the forest, getting closer and closer to where the slugs should be at, when suddenly a blade would come hurling at them from the side, lodging into the tree, as the demon of the mist, Zabuza, would appear. Zabuza would waste no time in trying to kill the 3, as mist would begin to now fall over the entire forest. The trees being absorbed by the sea of fog. As the fog is covering everything, Naruto would hold up his hand as a humongous blue flame would appear. Naruto would slam his hand to the ground, heating up the entire earth as all of the mist would get pushed back and evaporate into water as raindrops would fall to the ground. We can hear Zabuza's voice saying, you're pretty good. Naruto turned to Gaara, nodding, as Gaara would create a huge sand vortex spinning around them and shielding them from all sides. We hear Zabuza's voice once again, and Zabuza says, after I take you all out, then it will be the legendary Sannin next. This pretty much confirming to Naruto that note that was sent to him was a lie. Naruto tells Sasuke and Gaara to deal with Zabuza, saying he believes in them, as Naruto breaks out of the sand shield running with Tsuki, saying he's gonna go on ahead. Sasuke and Gaara would nod, with them now having a 2-on-1 against Zabuza. Oh please, you think some kids are gonna be able to? Sasuke, now, Gaara would say. Gaara would wrap sand around Zabuza's limbs, having found him using his sand eye copy. As we see Sasuke charge out, covering his fist with power, as chakra begins to fold. Woven style, overload! As he punches Zabuza with a full-powered overload, combining flame and lightning style chakra. The 2 elements combining as they shock and hit Zabuza with pure energy. Zabuza getting blasted backwards as he slams into a tree, coughing up blood, the wind being completely knocked out of him. Gaara would squeeze his hand, saying, sand coffin, surrounding Zabuza with sand and beginning to compress it. Suddenly, the executioner's blade would be swinging out of the sand, as a huge water dragon would come crashing out of the forest, slamming into Sasuke. Sasuke would feel a burning pain in his left forearm. I think I sprained my arm with that. Hey, Gaara, take over for a second. Gaara would hold Zabuza back using sand, as Sasuke would create a chakra thread and wrap it around his arm, squeezing it tightly and creating a semi-cast. Sasuke gritting his teeth as he punches the ground, pulling himself back up, wrapping chakra threads around him as he shoots chakra threads all throughout the forest, telling Zabuza to come at him. Zabuza, of course, being unable to see these threads, would run forward, slashing with the blade. As his blade would hit one of Sasuke's chakra threads, Sasuke would immediately make the hand seal. As suddenly electricity would come charging through the thread, hitting the executioner's blade and electrocuting Zabuza. Zabuza would immediately let go of the sword as Gaara grabs it with his sand, turning and slashing at Zabuza with his own sword with his sand. Gaara would shoot more sand bullets towards Zabuza, who'd try and dodge out of the way, getting hit in the leg as blood spurts out from his thigh. While he's down, Sasuke moves into action, wrapping 2 chakra threads around 2 trees and pulling them tightly, increasing the tension on them as he lets go of his foothold, getting sprung forward like a rubber band. Sasuke be spinning around Zabuza, running from tree to tree, wrapping him up in his dense chakra threads. Zabuza being completely unable to move. Gaara, do it now. Gaara would use his sand, wrapping it around Zabuza as he's completely unable to move. That's when Sasuke would use his finishing move. 1,000,000 volts! Raijin's clasp! Sasuke would grab the threads and charge all of his chakra into electricity, completely electrocuting and shocking Zabuza until he was unconscious, even causing his heart to stop beating for a second, as Zabuza would be utterly defeated. Crushed under Gaara's sand and broken, Zabuza would be left as Sasuke and Gaara continue moving forward to try and catch up with Naruto. It's at this point where we see in front of us Naruto having finally caught up, seeing huge explosions of dirt and trees falling over, as we see Haku and Knull fighting Lady Tsunade. And Tsunade is not happy, screaming that they better give Shizune back to her right now, with Naruto about to join the fight to take on Knull and Haku. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the story for story 11 of What If Naruto Was a Warlock? The Curse of Decay. If you guys are looking forward to the next story, make sure to like button, comment below what you thought, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this from me. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.